I feel like I get blamed for so much in my family, but then I see others being treated badly too. It's so confusing, and I don't know if I'm the scapegoat or if this is just how my family works. What are the signs of being the scapegoat, and how can I figure out if this is my role?
Yeah, I mean, the scapegoat, as you know, we talk about in narcissistic families, part of the dynamics is everyone has a role, and that's what keeps things destabilized. There's this sense of inequality and confusion because, children aren't necessarily treated with the same sense of love and appreciation. So it can feel you can feel very exposed and very vulnerable, obviously, when you feel like there's something that separates you from what looks like the rest of the family and the way that they function. So the scapegoat in general, you could say, is somebody that holds a lot of personal integrity. They actually have a certain degree of like awareness, I guess, or differentiation from the family. Like, because part of the narcissist grooming and conditioning is to really create a sense of we're all in this together. We're one entity. That's where the control and the abuse takes place. Everybody is sort of together and they orchestrate the power. But because it's a dysfunctional family and it's centered on control and abuse, the narcissist is still looking for someone to take on the role of why there may be problems because they don't want to own any problem themselves. They want to keep that sense of power and elevation above everyone else. So if they find that, there's someone in the family that has a smidgen of awareness and an ability to see through some of the dysfunctioning, some of the lack of consistency, the lack of responsibility, the lack of appropriate roles within the family, then it's more likely that they challenge the narcissist or they challenge some of the narrative or they go against it. They have boundaries. They say no more often. They create more independence for themselves. They do the things like they're a whistleblower in a way, right? They're calling out things because they don't want to feel enmeshed and so overtaken by what's going on. The problem is that because they hold that truth, the narcissist wants to decredit, devalue, do whatever they can to ensure that people don't actually believe whatever that scapegoat is trying to assert to maintain their independence and their sense of, I'm not going with the flow. Like I'm actually standing up and saying that there's something different that I believe in and that I see. And of course, when you want to try and stand alone, you're going to be called out and gaslit. You're going to be blamed. You're going to be, again, I go back to that discredited. And in that way, then, it can also help to devalue whatever the scapegoat is saying. Like, for example, I've had a lot of clients say that, well, my mother always said that, I was cranky as a kid, or I was, challenging and I was saucy, or I was, they discredit what other people would say is normal development of a child actually developing a sense of who they are. And so what it does is continues to discredit the fact that there can be a truth and a confidence within. So it's really, if you're a scapegoat, it's actually a sign of there's something actually true about you. You're actually trying to differentiate and be your own person.
Mm, great answer. This also made me think that we like had a discussion about this inside our community that
Mhm.
someone was describing like kind of the the question was like what are the signs of being the scapegoat, so they said
Mhm.
that they realized from an early age that they were kind of outsider in their family, so that even as a small child they knew they weren't part of the club, like you said, that this whole
Yeah. Yeah.
you are one entity and we are all in this
Yeah.
together, so they realized that they are like they either yeah that they are not part of that club, and also for them it was like they realized that the rest of the family pretended everything was normal, but then they could see the, well, in
Mhm.
their words, darkness beneath the surface,
Yeah.
but like for example they could see that okay, these are not healthy behaviors, and this feels off, or like this is not normal.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You know, the other thing I want to add to that, Juliana, is, typically when a narcissist use isolation as a part of their abuse, right? Like really cutting off a sense of connection,
Mm,
to one of the family members, typically part of that is because the child, say, for example, and it doesn't even matter if it's an adult child, but the child will, feel so uncomfortable because they want the connection. They're still in some way feeling like I'm trying to strive for that. So in other family members, the guilt and the shame might overtake them to abandon themselves and continually do whatever they can to be with the narcissist. But the scapegoat is the one that, as you said, if they're isolated, if they're starting to feel like I'm not part of it, I'm cut out, even if they're distressed by it, there's still a sense of their own integrity that is keeping them from giving into it. Like they still maintain that sense of, I'm never going to fit in. I always feel like the odd duck. Nobody understands me. They've got a campaign against me. Even with that distress, there's something within them that makes them feel like I can't give into this though, because I can see it. So it's kind of a real extra distressing place to be because that dilemma within them of knowing that I'm being guilted, shamed, isolated, whatever, and yet I have enough awareness to know that this is abuse and this isn't healthy and I don't want to be a part of it.
Yeah, great addition. I would also want to like talk more about the signs. So you have brought up many good signs of being the
Mm,
scapegoat, and
mm,
also one sign. And this is very like specific because, like I mentioned already, we had a discussion about this, and I thought I wanted to share some of the findings, or from that discussion. But like one person shared like that they were constantly kind of intentionally excluded, but it was always disguised as a kind of mistake. Like, for example, they were always the one forgotten when it came to family events. This is their already adult like child, and if they brought that up, it was brushed off as like, yeah, oh, we just forgot to invite you into this Mexico trip we took, or something like that. But like, that came to my mind when you said the isolation
yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah.
That not only you might like there might be that integrity or within you that you are like, okay, kind of I don't want to be part of this, but there might also
Mm,
is very often that you are actively being and intentionally being excluded, and then
yeah,
adding
yeah,
basic gaslighting there that no, we're not doing it
yeah,
on
yeah.
purpose. you know
Oh, okay. You just forgot, like you said, forgot
yeah.
about the trip to Mexico. And it's so true, right? It can be sometimes these very obvious pieces, but then it's even the subtle things, like,
Mm.
about maybe family dinners
Yeah.
or even let known about an important issue in the family. Like, say, if somebody
Mm.
is not feeling well, if there's an illness, if
Yeah.
there are important events that are being planned, and you are actually being aware that you're not part of the communication. You're not being given information. Just the information is another way of controlling and saying you don't deserve it. You're
Mhm.
not really included the way other people are because you're not equal to us, you
Yeah.
know?
That's a very good way to put it.
Yeah.
And then also another thing that came up in the discussion was like that your accomplishments they are ignored or
Uh,
or diminished,
yeah.
but then your failures like or
Mhm.
perceived flaws they are like like magnified, like they are huge. If you do one
Yeah.
mistake or like
Yeah.
one thing, that's also like it's very unfair.
Yeah.
Like let's say like there was this one person who they told that they earned a degree, raised 5 children alone, built a
Mhm.
successful career, and that their like own mother never acknowledged like, oh, that's nothing, or like everybody does that,
Yeah.
or and
Yeah.
but then like yeah, and then adding to this is often then the huge contrast what the golden child does. Like if they did that,
Yes.
it would be like praised like endlessly.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's also one sign of being the scapegoat, that your accomplishments are ignored, and then if you do a mistake, that's like magnified, and then adding the like if the roles were reversed, if it was the golden child doing that, they would be praised for the
Absolutely.
and
You
their
know, I
mistakes would
really
be
think
brushed off.
the scapegoat ends up being one of the strongest people in the family, in my opinion.
Mm,
They really do, because I think that it puts them in a corner where when they have that sense of awareness, it can bring out more of the anger that is needed in healing, which is knowing this is so obvious that it is empowering me in some manner. When I can start to build more and more confirmation of what's going on, I liberate myself. It's an opportunity to really see it for what it is instead of staying sadly trapped and conditioned the way the golden child would still be, or other people in the family. Like it can be that launching, if you will, when you
mm.
finally understand that that's where you are.
Yeah, yeah, great. Also, I would want to just bring up like one part of this. So in this question, it said that I feel like I get blamed for so much in my family, but then I see others being treated badly too. So can you just kind of confirm that is it true that like some narcissistic parents who have more than one child, it's like very normal that they alternate the roles based on their mood and the child's behavior? Because I think that's the one of the common misconceptions is that okay, I can't be the scapegoat because sometimes I'm being treated good and sometimes my it
Mhm.
seems like my sister is the scapegoat. But can you talk about this that can you still be the scapegoat even though sometimes it seems that the role might like
Yeah.
shift?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's a great question because it does go back to why it's so confusing to live in that world, because you will see no consistency in the roles, which keeps you a little off, right, of determining what's happening. The thing about what your that person is question is that there may be certain roles like because I've had some clients and I've seen it in my own family where one person really did feel like the scapegoat. But the problem is, say with the golden child or anyone else, the only way to keep them um I don't want to say like activated in those roles is to continually destabilize those roles as well, so that they're striving to accommodate, they're striving to prove themselves. So like the golden child can't be the golden child unless they have moments of being destabilized to try harder to win the approval, right? And then to be reinforced with that sense of, look what a good child you are, look at the successes, look at, you're my favorite or whatever. It has to be part of abuse, has to have good and bad. That's just the way it is. There's got to be moments of good and then the reactivation of, again, demeaning and hurting and abusing anyone in the family. So the scapegoat, though, let's just say, contains more of that consistent role of always being pointed out. So again, it's just like one is maybe more consistent and the other is fluctuating in some way.